Welcome to this week's Natural Gardening Live with me, Josie, your natural gardening coach. And as I said, today we're talking about protecting your garden from the negative effects of summer sunshine or summer sun. So helping your garden to, preventing damage to start with, helping your garden to recover from any damage that you might have experienced through the summer, trying to maintain the health and well-being, I suppose, of your garden as we go through the hottest time of the year. And it's been extra hot this year as well. Question for you. Have you experienced any, or have you seen any sun damage, if you like, or heat damage in your garden this year? Considering it's been one of the hottest summers we've had that I recall, we probably had hotter, but I don't think we have, is on record. Have you actually noticed, have you been out in your garden? Have you observed your garden? Have you noticed any sun damage? If you have, let us know in the comments. And if you've tried to help it in any way, or if you've had any good results and bad results, let me know in the comments. Just help me learn. So if you experience any damage, let me know. So knowing how you can protect your garden from the extreme heat wave and tropical summers that we've had recently, it's really important to know how to protect your garden from the damage from sun and heat as well, to prolong the health of your garden, if nothing else, and the wildlife living in your garden, obviously. There are a few simple ways you can manage the stress from heat and sun damage. It's best not to rely on just one of these ways, but to use them in sequence, if you like, to support your garden. So I'll be giving you quite a few different ways to just help to support your garden. As I say, don't concentrate on just one, because they can work together to support each other. So here are four. Actually, I think I've done more than four now. If I look down in my notes here, probably 5, 6 or 7 ways you can support your garden through extreme summers to maintain a happy and healthy garden. Watering. Now, this would be an obvious one, I would think. This is why I put it at number 1, because it popped straight into my head first. It probably seems quite an obvious one to most gardeners, because water naturally cools. It cools us down. We have a shower, we drink water, ice. It naturally cools us down. It cools the garden down, cools the roots of your plants down, naturally cools. But if used incorrectly, it can actually damage your garden. It causes more damage than it can benefit. So not always the best situation to be in. Watering at the correct times of day is important, which I know we've spoken about many times on many different videos, so that's fine. But watering the correct time of day, there is a debate on what the best time of day to water is. Now, I think it's preference, a lot of it, but early AM, early morning, like before the sun heat reaches its peak, well before the sun reaches its peak, before the sun starts shining through and heating your garden up. So early morning or late in the evening when the sun's gone over are, in my opinion, the best times to be watering your garden. You'll be causing far less damage to your plants. You're going to get much more out of the water that you water your garden. They won't evaporate so quickly, basically. You're going to get much better results watering at these times of the day than if you did at, say, midday on like the hottest day of the year. You're going to damage your plants. They're not going to be able to take the water in. There's going to be a whole lot of problems coming from that you're not going to fix by watering your plants. So watering at the correct time of day is very important. That was watering. So watering at the correct time of day, that is an incredibly good way of supporting your garden during hot weather. You'll get far better use out of the water that you water your garden with, and you'll cause much less damage. And you'll prevent damage as well. So not just not causing it, you will actually prevent it happening. So finding and creating shade. Now, this seems, again, it's an obvious one. Surely it's an obvious one, but it's not. Not to most people anyway, funny enough. Finding and creating shade. So shade provides a much needed relief for your garden plants and us as gardeners as well, from the heat of the summer. Much needed relief, especially recently. Actually, this week's not been so bad, but it's still quite close out there at the moment. So yeah, as I say, shade is a good respite from this heat. Really good way to support your garden during the summer months, especially in extreme temperatures like we've been having, is to, 1, move containers to shadier spots in your garden. Even if it's only for like a few hours, the hottest part of the day, if you can move them out of direct sun, out of the heat, into a shadier spot, and then move them back again in like the evening or in the afternoon or whatever, this will give them a much needed respite. They just that little bit of recovery time that they need to like just get themselves together and recover from the heat. And then 2, creating shade create shading. I can't read, honestly. Create shading for plants with netting, greenhouse shading, that side of things. Physical shade barriers, if you've got them, parasols from your garden, like tables, anything like that. You can use in your greenhouse. You can use greenhouse paint to paint the glass to shade your plants in there if they need it. Because as we know, greenhouse plants still need shade at certain times of the day as well to help them. Otherwise, the tomatoes will end up splitting. Fruit won't ripen very well, over ripen. You have all sorts of problems. So greenhouse shading is just as important as it is in the garden. So you can use the greenhouse paint, or the greenhouse shading. You can also use companion plants as well, which I'll talk about in a second. After my drinkies. So I've done a bit on companion planting when it comes to physical support before, but actually by planting plants in your garden with larger leaves, sounds quite ominous really, but planting plants in your garden with larger leaves can actually provide a lot of support, shade and sort of windbreak as well for plants that are a little bit more sensitive to wind and light, and they need a bit more of a shadier area. Woodland type plants that thrive in the woods or in undergrowth. These will be plants that would appreciate companion planting like this. And when it's particularly hot in the middle of the summer, lots of plants would appreciate a little bit of shade from big leafed plants. So by having these dotted around your garden, you're actually going to be doing quite a few of your plants a big favour by providing a little bit of shade. So this is a really good way of incorporating companion planting, physical companion planting in your garden to help support your garden. So finding and creating shade. Root cover and support. So I put this in one category because honestly I could talk about this one for a long time, but I thought I'd keep it short. Just that's why I put it into one, so I try and keep it short. So root cover and support. So as we know, the root system is a very important part of the plant. It's where they take the nutrients up from the soil. It's where the wall growth happens. And so the root system is very important to the recovery and health of your plant. If you keep the roots happy, you keep the plant healthy. That is how it is. But how do you protect the roots from extreme heat? Mulching and watering. So let's just say I could talk about this for days. So I'm keeping it concise for you. So mulching and watering. Mulching insulates the root system. It insulates the plants into the soil. So in these wintertime, it keeps the plant roots cool, keeps the plant roots warm, and in summertime it keeps them cool. Insulation. We know how insulation works. If you mulch with anything, if you mulch with anything from organic matter right through to gravel, bark, even the rubber chips you can get as the permanent mulch. If you mulch with anything, it's going to insulate the roots. But if you go that extra bit, as I'm trying to keep this concise for you, so bear with me. If you go that extra mile for them, if you mulch with organic matter, well-rotted manure, homemade compost, things like that. If you mulch with these kinds of forms of mulch, they will also help to hold in moisture in around the roots of the plant. Obviously insulate the roots as well to keep them cool in the summer months, maintain soil temperature, which is really good, and will over time break down and actually condition and feed the soil. So that will help your plant to then take up the nutrients, recovering from any stresses and anything from the sun, from the heat as well. So that's a whole kind of support in one, just by mulching the roots. Watering. So watering will help your plants, but if you water the roots, not the leaves, so if you water the leaves for a start with, you're going to be then causing damage to the leaves. So as I said, water sits on the leaves, sun or light reflects through the water droplets on the leaves, then burns the leaves, causing stress, damage, encouraging in pests and disease, and then your plant suffers even more. So we don't want that. It's bad enough from the stress and the damage from the sun and the heat. So we don't need to add to it by deliberately damaging your plants. So if you water the soil around the plant stem, so where the roots are, where roots are growing, this will help to cool the roots down as well. So watering. Now we've done the watering. So yes, watering is a massive part. It's a very important part, but it isn't actually the only solution. So a lot of people think watering is it's the be all and end all of cooling your garden down and recovering your garden. It isn't. And we're going to have to work this out a bit. If we have this 21-day hosepipe ban, there's going to have to be other ways because my water butts are empty and we've literally had a drizzle of rain today. So we're going to have to work it out. So knowing that water isn't the only solution is quite important. As much as it's very, very important, the elixir of life, so to speak, we need to work out a way of looking after the garden without it sometimes. So, feeding your garden. Now, when your plants are suffering from the heat and the sun, to aid recovery, you'll need to feed them extra. It's like us when we got colds. We need to eat more to help us recover. If we've I don't know, had some sports damage or whatever, we need the extra energy and electrolytes and whatever to recover. So you need to feed your plants extra to support them, to get them, to help them recover. So this is what I've spoken about in the past. It's really important to look after the soil in your garden, because the soil, if your soil is in good condition, it holds lots of nutrients that we can't always provide for your plants, can't always provide it. So if the soil is in good condition, it's there naturally. The plants don't have to ask for it. We don't have to think about giving it to them. It's there. So soil is so important. It's ridiculous. But yeah, if your plants are suffering, so I'm going off a tangent. If your plants are suffering, to aid recovery, you need to feed them extra. When feeding your plants, regardless of the temperature, this is a tangent as well, so I apologize. Regardless of the temperature or like what's going on outside, it's always a good idea to make sure the soil is damp, even wet, whatever is damp, before feeding your plants. Now, this one, there's this tangent that I did write in my notes, but it came up the other day because I saw in a note in another group, somebody was asking a question. I can't remember which group it is. I'm not going to name names because I can't actually remember. Somebody's feeding their plants, but their garden, the soil was literally so dry, it was cracking. It was awful. And they were putting, they were top dressing. I can't remember what it was with. It was like a bone meal or powdered nutrient fertilizer. And they were wondering how their plants were, the stem was burning, was literally, it had burn marks around the stem because they were, then the fertilizer wasn't obviously going into the ground because it was bone dry. The plant wouldn't have utilized it. So whatever nutrient it was deficient in, it was still deficient because the nutrients weren't getting to it. And the fertilizer, because it was a chemical man-made fertilizer, it was actually burning the outside of the stem. It was burning the plant. So that plant's going to die. So it's not going to help anybody. So ideally, keep the root, a bit of a tangent, sorry, keep the soil damp when you're feeding your plants. The nutrients will get, or the fertilizer will get absorbed quickly into the soil. Your plant's going to take it up really quickly and effectively. And then you won't have anything sat around, any of the feed sat around in the soil to then burn or cause damage to your roots, because it will be moist and it will become soluble and easy to take up. Sorry about that tangent, but I did put it in the notes there and I thought I do really need to talk about that because I've never said it before, and I saw that post and it kind of broke my heart. I thought, can't have that. So I had to say it. So sorry about that. Try and feed the correct nutrients. This was actually what I was meant to be talking about. So when your plants are suffering, you need to aid recovery, you need to feed to support them, but you need to feed the correct nutrients. So you're looking to repair and recover at this point. We're not looking to extra growth. We're not looking to support fruit. We're not looking to support flowers. We are looking to repair and recover. Now, the most appropriate nutrients for this is potassium and phosphorus. So these do support like cell growth, they support root growth, they support repair to the plants, they support leaf growth. So you don't want to be feeding nitrogen-based feeds now, because they won't be the most effective use of nutrients and it will encourage rapid growth, which when the plant's stressed, it doesn't really need that. So you want to be feeding things that are rich in potassium and phosphorus. Feed the correct thing. This is the most important part when your plants are stressed. Feed the correct thing, otherwise you're just going to stress them out more. Mulching, that was the other thing I was going to say. As we said about mulching earlier, when you mulch the plants, not only will it lock in moisture, but as over time it will break down. Now, organic matter is a really good, effective source of potassium and phosphorus. Absolutely perfect for repair and recovery from your plants. So not only, it should have been a thing about mulching, really, shouldn't it? Not only are you going to be like holding in the moisture as well, so which is also what they need, but you're also going to be supporting the recovery and repair of the plants, as all the nutrients will be there for them. So really quick way of incorporating the correct food is by mulching with organic matter. So as I say, homemade compost, bought compost if you want, well-rotted manure, leaf mold, anything you've got like that, organic matter. Mulch your plants with it. You'll lock in the moisture, you'll feed your plants, you'll aid recovery, and you'll keep the roots cool. Perfect. Now that was your 4, I think it was about 8 there actually, if I could count them, ways to support your garden through the summer months, through recovery from the heat and the stress of heat and sunshine. I do hope that they have given you a few ideas of how to protect your garden. As I said at the beginning, there isn't just the one way. You shouldn't just be concentrating on one way to support your garden through heat. There should be several different ways that you can use in conjunction with each other to help support your garden, because it makes your life so much easier. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment under this video. I'll gladly answer, not a problem. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. See you all later.